topic I will be covering for my major research assignment is a machine for living, the Modernist house. I completed research on the Australian architect Frederick Romberg, who is renowned for Modernist house and apartment designs throughout the interwar and post-World War II period. Frederick Romberg's career took off during the harsh conditions of World War II. Considering the conditions of life during that time, Romberg was still able to create something of himself and find his passion in architecture. Throughout his architectural designs, he expressed components of his culture and designed distinctly for the times. Romberg is a great example of an individual who made something of himself in such a dark, depressing period of history. Romberg is most renowned for his architectural designs, the 1939 Newburn Flats, 1941 Romberg House, and 1943 Stanhill Flats. Romberg has inspired many contemporary architects through his theories of modernism that he expressed throughout his work. Kirsten Thompson is a contemporary architect based in Melbourne. She focuses her designs around landscape and urban design architecture. As an artist, she has embraced and expanded many of Romberg's modernist features that can be visually seen throughout the comparison of their work. Frederick Romberg was born in 1913 in Qingdao, China, which they later relocated back to Berlin, where his parents are from. Frederick's father was enlisted in the war and was tragically killed at war in 1915, when Frederick was only 2 years old. He began early studies at law school, following in the footsteps of his father. Frederick became involved with left-wing politics, which attracted conflict with officials. He decided to leave the country in order to flee the chaos of war and his political responsibilities. He moved to Switzerland, where he began studying architecture at the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. Studying for 5 years, he decided to apply for a student travelling scholarship in order to avoid returning to Germany for compulsory military service. He was granted a scholarship to Australia. Following his graduation in Switzerland, Romberg moved to Melbourne, Australia, where he was adopted into a well-established architectural firm, Stevenson and Turner, where his architectural career blossomed. In 1939, Frederick married Verena, which he then began to construct his family home, the Romberg House, for himself, his wife and his children to live in. With buildings and constructions paused in an effort to focus on providing resources for the war, Romberg was forced to build his house himself. As Romberg's career became more established, he was announced a partner for Grounds, Romberg and Boyd Architecture, a similar time to when he was officially announced an Australian citizen. Unfortunately, Romberg and his first wife divorced, in which he remarried in 1961 and eventually became Professor of Architecture at University of Newcastle, which is where Romberg's architectural career eventually retired. Romberg's Swiss influences productively impacted many of his most renowned architectural creations, creating unique building structures across Melbourne, including the design and construction of his own family home. Romberg's family home, the Romberg House, constructed in 1941, was designed and built by Romberg with access to only limited resources. Although Romberg was an Australian designer, much of his early training with Swiss rural buildings was deposited into his designs, in particular the Romberg House. With rational use of materials, Romberg manifested the appearance of using new technologies in his design. However, he maintained the use of current building technology due to the material shortages. Brick, stone and glass were used throughout this design. He used timber replica on the ocean liner inspired staircase instead of the use of steel that would generally be used in this structure. The house was equipped with large windows which allowed a lot of natural light, which would increase the warmth and light throughout, decreasing the need for power and electricity. He focused on the principle less is more, with open plan floors and a basic rectangular structure. Swiss features of stone chimneys were incorporated to add complexity and aesthetic to the basic design. The Newburn Flats apartments were Romberg's first major design movement in his career. Constructed in 1939 in collaboration with Molly Turner Shaw, at this time apartments were a recent structural introduction into Melbourne, therefore new technologies were introduced into apartment designs. The serviced apartments were designed for young men who were starting up on their own, creating an opportunity for independence and growth during the economic recovery. Romberg expressed the principle form follows function throughout this design, focusing on the structure of the building and how the form could positively impact the function of the apartments. This was demonstrated through the flat roof, north-face building and large windows. The flat roof allowed a space for leisure activities, maximising the space and function that the building offered. The north-face building and large windows created solar heating for the apartments by maximising natural light and heat. The external attributes of the building were plain, simple, and geometric in form. However, it was the corrugated iron on the balcony that customised the building by featuring distinct Australian modernism. Design has evolved significantly from the 20th century fast forward to the 21st century. Designers continue to adapt rapidly to the changing needs and conditions of society. Although contemporary designers will continue to be influenced by modernist designers of the 20th century, as they introduce many invaluable technologies and innovation. Kirsten Thompson has designed several renowned architectural structures in Melbourne, some which resonate closely to the modernist theories used by Romberg. Kirsten's upside-down house carries similar modernist principles through the use of concrete walls, flat roofing, and large windows. Although the overall design is much more developed in comparison to Romberg, these principles, each used by Kirsten and Frederick, aim for the same purpose. Kirsten focuses on urban development by using a flat roof and 2 stories to maximise space, which is significantly important for contemporary designers to consider, as Melbourne is so overpopulated and devoid of space. Kirsten's designs also carry similar attributes to one another. The house at Kennet River is composed of an open-plan living area, large windows, and a flat roof. The design of this house bears many similarities to the Romberg house, with open-plan living and a long balcony that wraps around the structure. The open-plan living combined with large windows allows natural light and heat to flow through the house. Designers are constantly trying to be innovative with technology in order to become more environmentally and economically friendly. However, innovations such as Romberg's source of natural light and heat are still used constantly by contemporary designers as it's extremely effective and efficient. It is evident we have seen a major growth in architectural design as social and economic focuses and interests begin to change. Romberg introduced innovation that contemporary designers still use today, as demonstrated through Kirsten's designs. As trends and styles change throughout architecture, the modernist features and principles will remain relevant, as the core focus for many designers is and will continue to be efficiency.